tables. We also have up here on the second floor, there's some seating as well if you'd like to sit there. Welcome. I'm so excited to have all of you here. Hopefully I've been able to get around the room and greet each one of you. Most of you probably have interacted with me in person. Some of you just met me on LinkedIn and have graciously taken my invitation to come to this event. So thank you again. My name is Tanisha Gist, and I am the Director of Community Outreach and Home Ownership. And so for today's event, you are in for a treat. I've heard some of you already talking to each other about how you've enjoyed the fact that this is happening, and we really hope that this is one of many events that we'll be putting together. So let me start telling you about Partners. So for the past 10 years, Partners for Better Housing has actually been working on the gaps that are in housing disparities within the region. And so some of the ways that looks like is the Willow Bend homes, and also just convening with regional stakeholders like yourself to promote our shared equity home ownership program. And so if you haven't been able to work the room, there are some posters that actually not only show the Pay It Forward program, but also what the Willow Bend homes look like. There's 81 homes. If you haven't drove through the neighborhood, you should definitely take a look. They're in Southeast Fayetteville. It's beautiful. But the reason why we are here is to talk about one thing, and that is the home ownership disparities faced by Blacks. And so I want to share a couple headlines with you that you may already be familiar with. One from Zillow, and you may have heard this one. Black mortgage applicants are denied 24% more often than white borrowers. Another one, Black Americans are being priced out of the pandemic housing boom per CNN. And so these are hard truths, but this is where we're at. And so Partners is making efforts to really focus our attention on engaging people within the community, but also bringing a wonderful program, which I hope that all of you will connect with me on in regards to shared equity home ownership. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our CEO. Her name is Monique. Pierre.
Thank you, Tanisha. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. It is indeed my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Brian L. Watley. But before I do, having a mic and being in a theater space, I'm going to take a little bit of liberty. Throughout my childhood, there was a mantra. And whenever our pleading eyes would look to my parents, and especially my mother, to say, may I have this or may I have that, And she would look at me and say, "Is that a want or is it a need?" That tenet of childhood has followed me through my entire life. It has been paramount in my career, and it has come to the fore in the housing space in northwestern Arkansas. Housing, I will argue and posit with you this evening, is a want and a need. It is a need for security and stability. It is a need for safety. It is a need for a place to grow and develop identity. Housing is what we are about with partners. It's why we're in this room today. And it will help us frame our future actions, which you will get homework before we're done today. And without further delay, Dr. Ryan Watley, Dr. Ryan L. Watley, is a native of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. He's a former chemistry professor and assistant director of development at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And he's the current CEO of Go Forward Pine Bluff. Dr. Watley holds a doctorate degree in organic chemistry from the University of Oklahoma, where he successfully designed and synthesized novel drugs for cancer. He has published in high-impact journals and was awarded the United States patent for his drug development methodology. Since returning to Pine Bluff in August of 2015, Dr. Watley has joined in some capacities, led citywide efforts to promote UAPB, Pine Bluff, and Jefferson County. He was a co-chair of the 2016 United Way campaign that successfully raised $1 million for partner agencies. Dr. Watley is an active member of the Pine Bluff Jefferson County Chamber of Commerce. His involvement with the Chamber led him to be selected in the 2015-2016 Leadership Pine Bluff class. Dr. Watley is also a graduate of the 14th Leadership Arkansas class. Quite an accomplishment. Dr. Watley joined Go Forward Pine Bluff as CEO-elect in May of 2017. As CEO-elect, he was responsible for educating the Pine Bluff community on strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities around the city's government infrastructure, educational system, economic development, and quality of life. He became CEO after the successful passage of the Go Forward Pine Bluff tax initiative that provides funding for 26 initiatives to address weaknesses, advance strengths, capitalize on strengths, and suppress threats. In 4 years, Dr. Watley has successfully raised over $12 million in private investment, grants, and philanthropic contributions. The funds have worked in sync with tax dollars to achieve a 92% activity rate among the 26 initiatives. As a result of his economic and community efforts, Dr. Watley was issued a citation by the Arkansas House of Representatives and Senate via the UAPB and AM&N alumni chapter of Jefferson County for his community work. He was also named Citizen of the Year in 2016 by the Tau Phi chapter of Omega Psi Phi Incorporated. In February of 2020, Dr. Watley was recognized as a community jewel by the Southeastern Arkansas Jewel Foundation. He has been featured on the cover of Arkansas Business, named one of Arkansas's most influential leaders for 3 consecutive years, and most recently recognized as a 2022 influencer. Dr. Watley attributes his success to the core values of faith, family, and responding to the needs of others. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Ryan L. Watley.
Good evening, everyone. I said good evening.
Good evening.
I mean, we got the vibrations going, so we need to be a little lively in here. You know, when I was preparing my speech today, and I was telling my friend Joe, who I met over there today, I said I did not know this was going to be such a relaxed event, you know, with drinks and so forth. It's kind of laid back, and people been at work all day, and I was like, you know, I'm not going to come in here now that I'm here just deliver some formal speech. I do plan to stick to my notes, but after so much was said in that passionate amendment to her introduction about what's going on, she really summed up at the heart of the issues of home ownership. But In any case, I made the trip from Pine Bluff today, and therefore this is truly the day that the Lord has made, and I'm humble and thankful to be here. I appreciate all the work that Monique and her team has done today to make this happen, and I would be remiss if I did not thank anyone who's here who supports Go Forward Pine Bluff, and also those in particular who have helped me along the way, like Candy Adams and Dr. Folan there. As Monique stated, my name is Ryan Watley, and I am a proud native of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I graduated from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and I do want to reiterate that I am just a chemist before you to discuss housing, economic development, and community development. God does work in mysterious ways. Because I'm a chemist, I've been challenged on my disposition to even discuss this topic before. But those in the sciences will agree that critical thinking has this way of transferring across multiple disciplines. And we would agree that to approach some of the issues in Pine Bluff, critical thinking took and continues to be a serious exercise. So I stand before you today with really two main goals. One, to share a unique approach to solving systemic problems that are a result of the community's inability to keep up with economics, laws, policies, and procedures. And number two, a newfound understanding that good things do come out of Pine Bluff. The Go Forward Pine Bluff movement, it's really started in 2015. With Simmons Bank, who's a sponsor here tonight, so we thank them, the leadership has endeared itself to the community. They began to investigate in 2015 what is causing some of the circumstances that are surrounding this community, so they can document those. And they found a 16% in Pine Bluff's population since 1970, and a projected another 6,000 in the 2026 census. We have, generally speaking, the worst unemployment rate in the state of Arkansas. Only 10% of the revenues earned by the Pine Bluff Convention Center were from events held at the facility, and the adjacent 200-room hotel was closed. The city's last master plan was in 1978. Significant deterioration in the city's residential and commercial buildings were compounded by property neglect and absentee ownership. 2 of the 3 school districts in Pine Bluff were under state control for academic and financial distress. Multiple vacant storefronts and several unoccupied food businesses. The mall was closed when the loss of a major retailer. Again, an ongoing problem with neglected properties where the city and its neighborhood contends with 450 condemned properties, abandoned or torn down residential structures. Most importantly, I think the state's overall negative perception of Pine Bluff largely was shared by its residents, and commercial and residential decline along with education were the citizens' top 2 concerns, again followed by crime and a lack of activities for adults and children. And these are the documented challenges. There are more. And so I'll tell you, looking at that on a sheet of paper, that's a grim situation, a very grim situation. And sometimes it still gives me angst to look at that. But it's the truth. And if you don't ever get to the truth, how will you ever begin to move forward? For years, there was a lot of finger pointing. Well, that's your fault. That's your fault. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that. But what I have found out and what the leadership found out in this process, that these circumstances and these data points are interdependent on one another. The issue is that one does not realize the independency until the bottom falls out of one and begins to pull the rest with them. For example, my realtors in the room would know that education is directly related to housing. When a couple is considering to relocate, what do they look for? where it's a school district. And it's even on Ag Data Scout, right? You look it up, they have the school district, one of the top things you see. I didn't necessarily notice that until we went through some exercises. And then, in fact, this is a value identifier, because if the school is performing well, the neighborhood is performing well. If you can break through this particular piece or barrier, then you can yield a great workforce, because the school will begin to produce. A great workforce attracts salary-paying jobs and leadership training that can then spread over into your government services. I think you guys get what I mean by interdependency thus far. A wise man once told me, wherever there is failure and chaos presents an opportunity for innovation. And that is exactly what happened in Pine Bluff. Simmons Bank formed a steering committee, representative of each sector in the community, and then they solicited citizens to participate in a planning process around government infrastructure, quality of life, economic development, and public education. Black, white, young, old responded to this planning process that took a year long, over 6,000 man hours. And the planning resulted in 26 initiatives in the 4 pillar areas that were aforementioned: education, quality of life, economic development, and government infrastructure. And the mission of Go Forward Pine Bluff is to increase the revenues of the city to enable it to provide the services expected by the citizens. And our decisions are made on the values of the organization to retain population, relocate population, and make Pine Bluff a point of destination. Now, thinking back on what we talked about in terms of the challenges, that is a very aggressive and bold mission to want somebody to move and relocate there, right? So without funding, a plan is just sits on the shelf, really. You know, we don't have any funds to get it activated. So as Monique stated, a tax was proposed to the citizens, and it passed overwhelmingly by 76% of participating votes. And therefore, today, because of that tax and private monies that she mentioned, we have completed now 96%, completed or initiated 96% of those 26 initiatives. And it's important to understand what we mean by completed and or initiated, because some will continue to go on. At any rate, the plan is off the ground and moving. So by a show of hands, you know, it hadn't been that long, but I mentioned the 450 properties, right? 450 condemned properties in the city of Pine Bluff, which really has grown more since 2015. And so in response to that, I want to talk about some things we've done around those challenges. To date, we developed what we call a robust system for remediating blight, particularly those 450 homes, and we're averaging about 2 to 3 per week. You know, it's turnkey, like we flip the light switch on every week besides maintenance and weather, and we're taking care of business in regard to that. We have also started what's called a Teach Pine Bluff program, and that is to recruit certified and retain certified teachers to address the imbalance in uncertified teachers that we have in our districts. We firmly believe that instituting more certified teachers in the classroom will introduce rigor and pave the way for a better workforce. To address our empty storefronts, we have renovated a downtown space that is now an innovation hub, coined the Generator. This space focuses on developing entrepreneurs and facilitating pathways for them to start a business, but more importantly, access to capital. As we all know, that is a significant challenge amongst really minority businesses. What we have found in our community is that we had a lot of people basically hustling every day, but calling it a business. But thanks to the Generator, they're now transforming their hustles into actual businesses. So it's been a very powerful institute in our community. To the generators effect, during the pandemic, going back to 2008, we didn't have a generator or innovation hub, and we lost a lot of businesses. But we were able to mobilize about $200,000 to $250,000 in private equity to help, and grants to help save some of the small businesses in our community. And so that really speaks to the power of the generator. However, in all of those three things I just talked about, there was a missing link to the economic and social mobility. There was a missing link to make our approach to economic and social mobility comprehensive, and that is housing. It is proven that whenever you have good jobs, good housing, and good education, you will have a thriving city. Nowhere in America does it exist where you don't have those three operating. So oddly enough, in search of how we improve our neighborhood associations, we arrived at Alice. And not Alice Walton like I thought for a while. But this Alice is an actual acronym that stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. It is representative of basically the working poor, as they used to call them. These are tax-paying citizens striving every day to make ends meet, working 2 jobs sometimes, contributing to the economy. However, the basic cost of living outpaces their wages. The Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, when they began the study in Arkansas, their goal was for individuals or people, bankers, just people in general to realize Alice exists. Alice can be a multitude of people, and it's nothing to be ashamed about being Alice. I work. I do what I'm supposed to do. And so for a long time, I tried to understand when I actually participated on the not steering committee, but the committee for this, what was the ultimate goal? Just to notify people, what were we going to actually do about it? And so digging more into some of the data about Alice, families, particularly in Arkansas, range from 17% in Benton County to 64% in Lee County. In Jefferson County, where Pine Bluff is, our Alice percentage is more closely associated with Lee County. The report further entails that 41% of Arkansas households struggle to balance income and basic needs. 17% of Arkansans live below the poverty level, and an additional 24% qualify as Alice. Again, your everyday person, working multiple jobs, but it's just not enough. So in learning about Alice, I began to compare those with or relate that to our 26 initiatives. What can we do about Alice and Pine Bluff? And recall I talked about the neighborhood associations. Well, in Pine Bluff, we learned that a lot of individuals were spending almost up to 50% of their income on housing. And so that's surely not healthy and affordable. We have affordable housing, but it's less than desirable. And we have neighborhood associations, but defunct because of the growing number of renters. And actually, according to the U.S. Census, the percentage of home ownership in Pine Bluff has fallen below the national average of 63.9%. Specifically from the years of 2013 and 18, it declined from 66% to 53%. For perspective, a predominantly white community, neighboring white community, has a home ownership occupancy rate of 67%. So with this information, we began to develop a framework around Alice. And we realized that a home is one of the fundamental assets for social and economic prosperity, right, Monique? However, qualifying credit scores and a required down payment prevent many from home ownership. Alice families are subject to a rental payment well beyond a mortgage for substandard living conditions, often. And the availability of subsidized housing may improve the living conditions for Alice families. However, the subsidy is not enough to fix a credit rate, fix or establish or improve credit rating. It's just a perpetual cycle. And we've seen families who never hold a deed or mortgage for generations. And so we begin to put all this together, and if you remember, I said it started with trying to improve neighborhood associations. Over a 10-month period, talking with individuals, working, putting this puzzle together that we're thinking we're having to build. And finally, we were able to speak with Simmons Bank and come up with a plan to whereby they would lower their qualifying credit score to 580. Don't fall out your chairs, bankers. I heard you sigh. But they did that because they were willing to do that because of, one, the partnership that we had, but also the work that we had done to show we were on a track for success. So that 580 came with a 97% financing, and we created a Pine Bluff Homeowners Association to provide the additional 3% and closing costs. So we essentially have 100% financing. The Pine Bluff Homeowners Association is not necessarily, or I'll say it will not function necessarily like a traditional homeowners association. It is Alice friendly, but it's meant to help the Alice family get in an equitable position where their homes will appreciate, and they can use that in the future for generational wealth opportunities or start a business, etc. You understand where I'm going with that. So this was announced about 3 weeks ago. And probably in the first 6 days, we had 80 calls between my office, the city, and the bank of individuals interested. And today, I'm proud that we have 5 under contract ready to close on a home. As you know, home ownership can transform neighborhoods, stabilize schools, and provide an opportunity for a business startup when they eventually appreciate. You know, going through this process, we learned that 580 and 97% financing isn't enough. That other 75 people that have called who have not necessarily gotten approved yet, there are policies and procedures still in place that have to be worked on to whereby we can get them qualified, such as collections and things of that nature. Not going to go too far in the weeds. But we've had to already adjust this to some degree. But it works. But furthermore, we've been able to develop an incentive opportunity for not only realtors, but for developers, where we're able to lower the principal cost of a home by up to 20%. And so we're very early on in this process, and we have not seen the fruits of what this will do, but they are running to Pine Bluff, quick, fast, in a hurry, to develop an area that's seen disinvestment for a while. So in closing, I said I had 2 things. I wanted you to know about this unique approach. And 2, I want you to know good things come out of Pine Bluff. Because not too long ago, Pine Bluff was the 2nd largest city in the state of Arkansas, just like Fayetteville. It started out as a union city post-Civil War. So there was always a predominantly black city. In fact, a study of black wealth by W.E.B. Du Bois in 1899 revealed that Pine Bluff had the 4th highest rate of black wealth in the nation behind Charleston, Richmond, and New York City. The creator of Tulsa's Greenwood district, O.W. Gurley, grew up in Pine Bluff and gained his wealth. I think you've heard of Black Wall Street from Pine Bluff before he moved to the Oklahoma Territory. Yes, in Pine Bluff, blacks and whites held adjacent businesses on Main Street, and blacks thrived in every sector, including business, music, entertainment, hospitality, education, healthcare, law practitioners, and more. That did not mean Jim Crow did not exist, but black people thrive. It also, if you think about it, shows you why the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff even exists, right? Because that was a hub for black leadership. And so for this reason, Pine Bluff is the soul of Arkansas. And one thing we all know, the soul never dies. So stay tuned as Pine Bluff rises like the phoenix, and I thank you for your time. I'll take any questions. Yes, ma'am.
So right now, Simmons is the only participating bank, or you are looking at other banks?
So that's a very good question. Reliance Bank is also participating, and they are actually servicing the loans, which is something that Simmons didn't want to do, being quite frank. And so they're carrying the load of shouldering that. It's a very, we've had to create a flow chart on how all of this works. So Reliance has stepped up. We've gotten calls from a few other banks, and some people are still thinking about it, how it goes. But the bankers in the room know at 580, these are strictly in-house loans, and they're taking the risk. I told at the press conference, I told the audience, give Simmons Bank a hand, because some of you would not lend your brother $5 if he had a 580 credit score. So they deserve a round of applause for sharing their risk. Yes, sir.
I got two questions. Of the five that were awarded, are they mostly families or single?
No, so great question. So we are only, and I'll get into something else with that. We are only focused on single residential housing. And I don't know how many of y'all keep up with Andre Perry's work with the Brookings Institute, but he talks about devaluation of African American neighborhoods and appraisals and things and bias. Another challenge in Pine Bluff is that we don't have a local appraiser for residential. And so when I talked about the state's perception of Pine Bluff and someone's coming into the community to appraise a home, they have probably some bias coming into this area. And so we have a condition that we're also working on that John and Candy are helping us with from the Faith Jones School, that we have this 580 particular deal, and it goes beyond that. I won't get too far in there. But we're focused on a particular area in the city to revitalize. It has a traditional rich housing stock, but we talked about vacant property and abandoned houses. But we're struggling with comps, right? But we have been able to garner some parcels, and we're getting ready to break ground on 2 new homes as a nonprofit housing developer to establish the comps, because there probably hasn't been a home, new construction in that area in a decade and a half or more. And so we're gonna, for me personally as a leader, I try to understand the game or the system there is, and we're gonna play the game. So we will begin to build a home to establish the comps, and then the rehab developers come in to get loan to value. Because right now, they're struggling to get the amount of money necessary to rehab these homes, which constantly costs disinvestment. So that's another part that we didn't talk much about, but it's very important. And again, in the next 3 or 4 months, we hope to break ground on those first 2. So single family, you said you had another question. I'm sorry to go off on that.
Was the new development going on around it comparable homes?
Yes. So again, tying this all together, because I probably could, we didn't get into all the other stats that we've addressed, but when we're going in there and we have this robust demo process that I bragged about, we're actually not necessarily creating a problem, but we have a problem if nothing that happens to the lot. And so we have really a comprehensive approach that we have some lawyers and things working on, to where the citizen either pays that money back, or the city continues to aggressively move to foreclose on that lot, whereby it can be available for this program for new construction. But in the end, remember, our mission is increasing the revenues of the city. And so we want that lot to return into a tax-producing parcel, a parcel that the city is getting franchise fees from, and et cetera. Because if we don't, Palm Bluff, it won't make it. Yes, sir.
Any coaching opportunities in place for those that do not qualify currently for the program?
Yes, absolutely. So Simmons has a partnership with Southern Bancorp, and currently existing, and we're sending those individuals. So I don't want people to think those other 75 haven't qualified. Not saying they have or have not, but they just have not been approved yet. They're still going through the process. But yes, we are working to build that pipeline, and also we're keeping track of the names that come every day, so we can report that data in the end. I think someone had, yes, sir.
You talked a lot about how narrative can shape community. What's the narrative that you want the rest of the state saying about crime?
That it's not about crime. I live there every day, and I have a great life. If you're involved in those type of activities, then they're going to take care of you, just like anywhere else. But if you're going to school, going to work, taking care of your kids, coming home, you rarely have any issue in Palm Bluff. But the thing about it, we're so close to Little Rock. And so the news fly down to Palm Bluff and get a story, whenever they can, I remember I told the mayor one day to start getting on the, whatever the thing called, the walkie-talkie, whatever it's called, the things that the trucker uses all the time, but the scanner. And I told her to play a trick on the news. Tell them that we just had a murder, they'll fly down there and tell them this is why, and then give them some positive news to come back and report to them. Now, she didn't do that, but they sit there and they listen to the scanner all day. And we're like, come down, but we will send you positive stories that you won't even report, but you run down here for this stuff. So, we have to do a better job of marketing our city because we have some amazing, amazing features. In terms of economic development, rail, waterway, we have airport, we have all those opportunities. And we have I think it's only one of two international trade designations for our port, which is actively booming. So it's a lot of business opportunities. However, African Americans in this country have not always had the highest paying jobs. They've traditionally had to build their wealth off of their private business. And so therefore, when you don't have the money to invest, we kind of get these situations that we're doing now. And, we can blame it on race, we can blame it on a bunch of other things, but in Palm Bluff, we don't make any excuses. We want people to be in a better economic shape to borrow money the conventional way. To go in, walk in the bank, to show a balance sheet, to say, I have a product that sells, loan me the money, be confident in me. And that's what we're doing. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Unfortunately, it's changed. It's not the original name anymore. It's called Evergreen now. We actually have two, maybe three paper. I know we have two, but another one maybe just opened up. So that's been a big, huge source of income for that community for a long time. We've lost jobs, but we've also brought in jobs. So there's been a balance, but more critical thing has been workforce. And we're going to have to everyone's battling that because COVID has probably suplexed whatever workforce was in the past. But we are now, because of the school system situation, another thing that have pressed is we have to understand that we can't educate this generation of child like we got an education. Even the calendar is based on a farm system. whereby we get out 2 or 3 months in the summer to go pick crops. No one's picking crops anymore. We suffer from literacy rates, so why are we getting out 2 to 3 months in the summer? And it goes on and on. But also just the type of learning. Now, again, remind you, Pine Bluff was once the second largest city and has produced a lot of wealth. As a matter of fact, you guys cheated off some Pine Bluff up here. A lot of people have, because of the things that we had in place that worked well. But we did not keep up with some of the economies, and some things happened to us that were not irreplaceable, such as the mechanization of agriculture, as well as a significant bank went bankrupt in Pine Bluff and lost about 300 white-collar jobs. Nothing replaced that. And so you lost a lot of leadership in that aspect as well in your community. But until we produce the students who have the background to be innovative, you can't create jobs. And so, as I stated earlier, this is cyclical. If one hurts too far, you will begin to see the other one come with it. And so you have to stay on top of these things, and otherwise you'll be in a place for innovation to happen. If you remember, that is chaos and failure. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Are you all partnering with the university at all to help retain those graduates to stay within the Pine community, or how is that working with your organization?
That's a very good question. The short answer is yes. We have to improve the efficiency in it. We also have to improve, remember, another one of our pillars is quality of life. So young people, they want a great quality of life if they're going to stay somewhere. And we have not obtained that piece yet. But by the end of the year, we expect to break ground on some things, that new restaurant bars downtown, a new go-kart entertainment deal. And hopefully by next year, a big part of what the citizens said they wanted was a movie theater. So, you talk about not having the capital to invest, et cetera, or perception. Nowhere in America does it exist for 40-some thousand people, they don't have a state-of-the-art movie theater. That's Pine Bluff. But we were able to recruit a gentleman who saw that and said, this is ridiculous, I'm going to put a movie theater here. Well, he acquired a former big box for about $450,000, and then COVID hit. So what shape are we in with movies now these days? But just talking through some of the conversations that we have in our office, and then trying to get a bank to finance it, right? That's a tough conversation. But at any rate, if we don't get a movie theater, then we will continue to lose tax revenue, because when individuals want to go to a movie, they maybe buy an outfit, they go, get something to eat, have some drinks, go to the movie, and we're 40 minutes from Little Rock. So it's almost like COVID, whatever you do, we got to have this. I know y'all have a different set of problems up here, night and day. But remember, we were the second largest city at once. And so that's not a threat to you guys, but it's more so encouragement to stay on top of what you all are doing, but more so become inclusive, because you can begin to get an imbalance, get too top heavy, if you don't start addressing this home ownership issue in Northwest Arkansas. You'll find yourself in a situation you have to deal with a larger Alice population, and they're trying to fend for themselves. I think my 30 minutes is up.
He's a lot taller than me. Thank you, Dr. Watley, and to everyone that helped us create this awesome event in this beautiful venue. Thank you, Theater Squared, and our vendors, our volunteer support, We are only able to do what we do because of what everyone has done to support us. A few of you here already know me. My name is Tiffany Hudson. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development for Partners for Better Housing. I am the longest standing staff member at Partners, and since I've been here, I have seen how intentionality around addressing affordable housing and the due diligence of sticking to it has actually led to homes coming out of the ground. In our beautiful Willow Bend subdivision that Tanisha spoke about, I would certainly invite you to visit if you get a chance. But I would like to acknowledge some people specifically and thank them for their assistance. In particular, our board members. A few of them are here. The chairman of our board, Keaton Smith, is over here. Our treasurer, Lee Porter, was here. She's sneaking and hiding around the corner. And I'm not sure if we have any other board members here. But thank you both, and thank you to all of our board. I would like to acknowledge our sponsors, Iberia Bank, First Horizon Bank. Simmons Bank was very gracious enough to help us with this particular event as well. And Generations Bank. Thank you, Generations. And then we had a few donors. I believe Tanisha has some door prizes, maybe, from Rick's Bakery, Arsagas Mill District, Woodstone Pizza, Bliss Cupcakes, Puritan, and Dunco. So thank you very much to our donors. So it's really hard work to do what we do, and it takes a lot of hands to accomplish that. So I did want to invite you here to leave our event kind of excited and engaged, but also with some next steps to think about what you can do to get involved to help us change the narrative around Black homeownership in Northwest Arkansas. We are a nonprofit entity, so of course we accept donations, and we are happy to take your cash if you have that available. But it doesn't always have to mean cash out of your pocket. Donations can mean active engagement. It can mean your time, your resources, your connections, your advocacy on behalf of affordable and attainable housing, keeping that part of your day-to-day conversations, no matter what you do in your daily life. And staying connected with us, whether you're able to donate a substantial amount or a small amount, reach out to us and we'll be able to walk you through what it looks like to join us in our efforts. So most importantly, give your time to share your personal stories about homeownership with you, your friends, your family. Share them with us. We will be sending you a survey, so please be on the lookout for an email from Tanisha and participate. That helps us tell our story with funders and with the community at large. It's a really important part of engaging in your community. And please feel free to check out our website and reach out to any of us with questions or comments or concerns that you have. I want to thank Tanisha, who did a rock star job with this event. And Monique, Pierre, our CEO, thank you. And everyone who came tonight in the cold, I really appreciate you coming out. And anyone who watches us on Facebook Live, we look forward to seeing everyone again. Thank you so much for attending.
All right, everyone. And I would also like to invite Keaton Smith up to say a couple of words. He has been a stalwart proponent of affordable housing, of making sure that there's equity and wealth building in this community. And so he would like to say a couple words. Keaton?
Well, I just want to say a couple thank yous. So, in my role as the board chair of Partners for Better Housing, I'm just so proud of our team and Dr. Watley, and just an incredible conversation. So, thank you all so much for all you're doing. In my day job, I'm a banker with Iberia Bank, and we just changed our name to First Horizon yesterday, literally. If that's unfamiliar to you, but I wanted to say thank you to the other bankers in the room, because there's a great turnout from First Security, from Arvest, from Generations, from Simmons participating in this event, and that incredible program in Pine Bluff. Building our narrative around housing is really important, and banks, we have a lot of tools at our disposal that can help be a part of the solution. And I think one of the narratives that sticks out to me in Northwest Arkansas is that when we see a big problem, we come together to get things done. So I love the spirit of collaboration that we're seeing amongst the banking community, and excited to see that grow. So thank you all.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening. We appreciate your time, we appreciate your attention, and we appreciate you paying attention when you get the email from Tanisha with regards to the homework I mentioned when I first started. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.